Moving can be stressful. Adding aquariums into the mix is a sure way to make it so. 2 weeks ago, I moved 3 aquariums about 2 hours away. In this video, I want to share 10 tips for moving aquariums, whether long or short distance. Hi, it's Connor. Welcome to my channel. As I mentioned in the intro, I recently moved 3 aquariums, which are my 65 gallon, 36 gallon, and 20 gallon, about 2 hours away. Now this move went relatively smoothly, and I actually posted a video last week going through all the steps I did for each of the 3 aquariums. This, however, is after I moved a 45 gallon for my first time a couple years ago, and that did not go as smooth. Now all the fish made it safely, but there's a lot that I would have done different and did do different this time. So in this video, I have 10 tips for you from all my research and planning that went to the last move that could help you with your next move, whether it's short, long, large aquariums, small aquariums, etc., etc. So the first tip I have, it's a pretty basic one, but if you don't do this one, none of the other ones are really going to help you as much, and it is just to make sure you create a plan. So think about all the steps, what day you're going to do everything in, and this even includes any prep time you're going to do before moving day to make the move easier. But just come up with a plan, visualize how everything's going to go, and then depending on how many tanks you're moving or how complex it is, if there is a lot of steps, one thing that I found very helpful is just to write all your steps down, and as you're doing moving day, you can just cross things out one after the other. Number 2 is to overfilter your tank and also set up your additional filtration about 3 to 4 weeks prior to the move. Now this is a tip that I didn't see in any of the guides or read online. Everyone just talks about just get your filtration wet and get your substrate wet and move all that. And well, that's all true and good, and I agree with all that, but one simple way to not have to worry about your tank recycling once you move is just overfilter before. So now I think 3 to 4 weeks before is a nice sweet spot where all those filters will be filled with plenty of beneficial bacteria. So just set up extra ones before, and then you can just move them easily. You can do this with any type of filters, but I think the easiest is sponge filters, and they're very cheap. You just need an air pump, and then you can get nice sponge filters for less than $10 each. Put a few of those extra in your tank, and then on moving day, just take all of them, put it in a bucket under aquarium water, move with them, and then set them in your tube tank, and you'll have plenty of beneficial bacteria. And then after a few weeks of being in a new place moved, you can just slowly take off the extra filtration. Tip number 3 is to test all your equipment and your new water at your new location before moving day. Now this will reduce a ton of stress. A few things that potentially could go wrong. One that happened to me is there could be a different adapter for your sink that'll go to your Python or your water changer. Water that comes out your sink could be different parameters than your fish are used to, and it could be some extremes. Like you could be used to a pH of 6.5 and you go to a new place it's 8.0 or something like that. Your water temperature either does not come out a certain degree. It comes out either only cold or only hot, for example. Your Python hose could not fit in your new place. It could be too short. Your wall outlet locations could be really inconvenient to where you want to set up your aquarium. And just you could forget equipment, so you just want to know where your hardware stores and pet stores are, and ideally move during the day where you can just get to them and get stuff as needed. But basically the point of all that is if you test all your stuff for how you're going to fill your tank, how you're going to set up your tank, how you're going to set up your equipment before you actually do moving day, you'll know what you need: extension cords, different water treatments, different adapter for your water changers, stuff like that. Number 4 is to use a battery powered air pump for your move. So especially if you're doing a longer term move, your fish are going to be in buckets for a while potentially. So having them have extra aeration will be a huge help to them. And so there's a few ways you can do this. Probably the simplest is just to get a battery powered air pump. I'll link one below where it's just rechargeable and it'll last more than a few hours. And so you can just hook up some air stones, put them in the buckets, and your fish will have plenty of aeration for a long move, and it'll help them be comfortable and be able to support much longer distances. There also has options where you just get a USB one, so it'll plug in USB to your car wherever you normally charge your phone, for example. And then a third option is to just get a battery pack where you can plug anything into this, and even if you are worried about temperature, you can plug small nano heaters into that too. And this also will double as if the power goes out in the future, you'll have this for backup as well. So I'll link that as well. I have a $200 one is to deep clean your tank only about 3 weeks to 4 weeks before you move, and not right before you move. So now, the first time I moved, I didn't deep clean right before, and the problem I had when I was moving all the substrate and decorations out right on the same day, the water just got super dirty, and so I had to move the fish in very dirty water, which I did not like. Wasn't healthy for them, definitely more stressful, and just not ideal. So now that's kind of the situation where you just don't deep clean at all before you move. The other option is right before you move on moving day, you do a very deep clean, and then that could end up disrupting your beneficial bacteria cycle. So in my opinion, the sweet spot is about 3 to 4 weeks before. Maybe do half the tank 1 week, half the tank another week, is to do a nice deep cleaning so your tank will be very clean, but you will still have the few weeks to make sure you have plenty of beneficial bacteria and your tank doesn't have to worry about cycling problems. And definitely pair this up with extra filtration and you should be totally good. You'll move your fish in pretty clean water, and then you also won't have any cycling problems. Number 6 is to remove your decorations and substrate before moving day. So this is what I definitely did wrong my first time, and now the second time I did do this, is it helped a ton. So I would say, the last couple of weeks before you move, slowly start moving decorations, slowly start removing substrate, and this way you're doing it like when you're doing water changes ideally, and then you won't be adding a bunch of gunk into your water right as you're moving. And it'll also have the benefit of you won't have to move a bunch of stuff out of your tank on that day. It'll kind of be just drain the tank, catch the fish, take off your equipment and move it. Whereas instead of having to move all the decorations out on the same day. To add to this though, some people do prefer to move their substrate with their tank. I actually prefer not. I'd rather not move substrate in a tank while it's just moving in a truck or something. I guess it depends on what substrate you're using. Probably sand is a lot less risky. It also really depends on what size aquarium. Like it's a very large aquarium, it's going to be much harder to do that, but the other way I prefer not to do that. So what I like to do is just slowly, or the few weeks before I move, slowly be removing substrate, every few days or during every water change, and then you're not going to mess up your cycle, especially if you're over filtering. And also, it'll be much quicker and much simpler and much safer both on the tank and the fish on the actual moving day. Number 7 is to move your aquarium on a different day from when you're moving your furniture and doing your other move. Now this will just reduce the stress and reduce the time potentially that your fish will have to wait in buckets or bags, because you'll be able to just focus on just breaking down your tank, moving it and setting it back up on one day, and not have to worry about moving everything else, which could definitely delay some stuff, and you could forget about stuff in your fish tank, for example. So I personally like to do this either the day before I'm moving everything else or the day after everything else gets moved. Number 8 is to fast your fish 24 hours to 48 hours before your move. Now, if you read on any site that does ship fish, this is pretty much what they do. Basically, the idea is you fast your fish at least the day before, and so when they're moving in buckets or bags, they're not going to be producing as much waste and the water will stay much cleaner. And so this is especially useful if you're doing a long move, but it'll just reduce stress and the time that they can stay in the bags or buckets will be much greater. Number 9 won't apply to everybody, but if you are thinking about upgrading a tank, I think moving is the perfect time to do it. And I actually did this myself this last move, upgrading my goldfish's 36 gallon to a 55 gallon. And basically the advantage this gives you is you can buy the new tank prior to the move, set it up and everything, and then when you actually move, you potentially don't even have to move your tank that day. You can just move just your fish and either have the tank already set up or just already set up on the stand, and then it's either somebody's adding water and conditioning it, or just plopping your fish almost right in the tank. So it definitely reduces a lot of stress on your part, and you pretty much can just almost move the fish, just that's all you're focusing on. So if you're going to upgrade, it's absolutely a great time to do it. Then finally, number 10, similar to the last one, but it's if you can't upgrade or don't want to upgrade now, and it's more for longer moves, or if you're moving a larger aquarium or larger fish where it's going to be hard to move the aquarium and the fish on the same day. So now this is to get a stocking tub, and they make all sorts of different sizes of these. You can get $50 or you can get 50 gallon ones for pretty cheap, and now you can just set these up, put sponge filters in there that are already pre-cycled, and probably put a net on them depending on the fish you keep so they don't jump out, and then just set them up before or set them up the day you bring your fish, put your fish in there, and then your fish can last in there for days, weeks, really as long as you want. It's basically just a normal tank. It's just not glass, you can't see through it, won't look as nice. But these will be absolutely a ton helpful, and you won't have to worry about moving your tank on the same day, or if you know there's going to be a big delay, this can help a ton. And so if I was ever going to move far away in the future, I 100% would do this. And I feel like it would simplify the process and reduce a lot of stress. Now that wraps up my 10 tips for moving with an aquarium. I know people prefer very different methods for moving, and there's all sorts of tips out there, so I'd love to hear from others what has worked or hasn't worked in the past with moving aquariums. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like so others can find it. And it's also very appreciated if you're able to drop a sub on my channel. Anyway, I'll catch everyone in the next video.